I said, what, now? Going for your enjoyment? Is that why you called me down here? He says, no, can Mike the TV sing? And I said, yeah, I can sort of carry a tune. I said, I'm not a singer, but I could sing. I could do something. I says, what did you have in mind? And he says, well, the opening for the, I don't know if you guys remember the opening number, but it was the Crossroads. The Crossroads. So they got me in there and they had this temp track, kind of a background thing. They didn't have any of the other voices in there yet. He says, okay, so it was like karaoke. So if you go in as a character, as long as you're in a character mode, I love doing that. That's way too much fun. So it's like, you know, standing at the crossroads, a huge celebrity, and that whole thing. And it was, I think I did it twice. And on the second take, they went, great. I said, I can do it again. You know, I can do a couple more times for it. So no, that's good. So and we don't see the show until after the recording. So we're not looking at it on the screen. It's we do all the recording and then they animate. So when I saw this intro, it's phenomenal. They had this. Did you guys actually have a black background choir?
We did. Ian actually said it was one of his best memories of the show because he went into a recording studio with these 3 backing singers, like professional, big. They've sang with everybody, beautiful black, great voices, choir doing the backing.
It made Mike the TV sound so much better.
And then he went into a studio with Mike, like the whitest guy in North America. And he said it was hilarious. He loves that. He told me that. Yeah.
James Brown going on in there too in that session. But no, it was just I didn't hear those background singers. I think they were going to put them in after. So it wasn't until I saw the show that I went, holy crap, this is good. I can sing. You know? But nobody ever called again. So. Oh yeah, when we recorded her, we had the track. I mean, she had the whole sound. So she just got. I mean, Kathleen's a really exceptional talent, as all these guys are. But she just had, you know, was just so very sultry, and I mean, Kathleen has many sides to her. So I think she enjoyed doing that too. That turned out well. That was a fun episode, talent night, just for all the things that happened. And then we had. I think one of the ones was they were getting all the people to come.
Look, it was BS&P.
Yeah, well, but it was the one that was we did a William Shatner, and that was me. It was like pack my bag, pre-flight, 0, and then at the end it's gonna be a long time. And he bows his head and his toupee fell off. So these guys were it was just so great. It was here.
Okay. No, way back in the mists of the mid-80s, we did the Dire Straits thing, which was the world's first computer-generated pop promo, and that went down really well and was a big hit everywhere and big on MTV and stuff. And Ian, I remember we were in the pub immediately after doing that, recovering from it, because that was 3.5 weeks of hell doing that pop promo. And he turned to me and he said, hey, we could do a show like this. And I thought he was mad, but when I got some sleep and felt better, we started talking about it, and it's like one of the talking about the technology. I think Paul was talking about technology earlier. Back then, ReBoot was going to look like Dire Straits. So I don't know if you remember that pop promo, but all the characters were a bit cubic. They were no shininess, no shadows, very boxy, very, very primitive. And that's what ReBoot would have looked like. If we'd made the show right then in 1985, that's what it would have looked like. And very early on, somebody sort of looked at our early concepts and said, but it's going to look really weird. How do you explain that? And we sort of thought about it for a while and said, hang on a minute, if it's set inside a computer, nobody will care that it looks like that. They'll just accept it. You know, if you look at the visual and go, oh, it looks really weird, and it's like, yeah, but that's inside a computer. They're like, oh, right, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. No, that makes total sense. And that's the ball, the tiny snowball that started rolling and rolling. Of course, it took us 9 years to sell the show to a network, by which time the computers have got better, the technology had got better. It no longer looked like that. It looked...
Well, you Let's Get Rock.
Right.
Where the kid with the hat
that was basically that was the prototype Enzo and the way Ian's way of testing the software.
Cool.
It was, you know, we talked to SGI at the time about the machines and Softimage about the software, and you know, you always try and get something for nothing, right? It's like, well, you give us the machines, we'll make the show, then we'll pay you, sort of thing. And they're like, we're not sure about that. And they're like, okay, well, lend us like 3 machines and 3 sets of software to do this pop promo with. And you'll get loads of credit and blah, blah, blah. And we'll get to test the stuff we're going to use on the show. So yeah, Def Leppard, Let's Get Rocked, Ian did that on his own in LA. And not on his own, he had a couple of guys helping him. But that was very much the prototype for ReBoot. That was how much we changed in 9 years, where it had gone from Dire Straits to Def Leppard, and then very soon after that we started production on the show.
Thanks for sticking with it.
Thank you. We got a question for somebody over here.
What's the question? We have one
Back there.
way back there. Josh.
This is for Michael Benyaer. I know that you've done some voice work for Robot Chicken. If they did a ReBoot parody, would you want to come back as Bob and voice him in the parody?
Did you hear that, Michael?
No.
Okay. You've done some voice work on Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
If those guys wanted to do a ReBoot parody, would you be happy to do the voice?
God, no. Who do they think they are? Of course. Yeah, it'd be great.
Cool. There's one right back here with the hat.
Yeah. What was it like to work with Long John Baldry?
Okay, I got to hand that over to these guys.
Yeah, well, he was great. As a voice director, I got to work directly with him. A real quick story about Long John. He was, and I apologize, Scott, for anything I'm going to say. No, Scott is a wonderful individual, and he came in and did a temp track because we couldn't get Long John, and Scott voiced Captain Capacitor. So Scott was nailing it, like he always does. So the producer, the guy who was in the studio with me, who was named Christopher Bruff. So Christopher Bruff is over my shoulder. Just get him to read it. Just do this. Get him to read it like Scott. So because he was kind of prop like this. So I had the button down, and he says, just get him to do it like Scott McNeil did it. And so also Long John, because we were like voicing now. Putting him in, and he goes, "Who's Scott McNeil?" I said, "He's the guy on the temp track." Oh, okay. Well, I do it the way I do it. So, yeah. So that was. He was a wonderful guy, though. We really enjoyed working with him.
I have a.
He had amazing stories.
Yeah.
They were really tall.
Long John Baldry was an idol of mine when I used to be a young man, a rock and roller back in 1969-70. Yes, this guy, Long John Baldry, came out with this album, Don't Try to Lay No Bougie Woogie on the King of Rock and Roll. It Ain't Easy, that was the album. If you ever hear it, it is fantastic. The opening monologue to that song is great. Yeah, that booja-wooja music. But Baldry was such to my mind, a very humble, wonderful gentleman. I mean, he's a guy who discovered Rod Stewart drunk in a subway singing at the top of his lungs when he was 16 years old. And Elton John, he had Elton John playing on his album, discovered him. And he brought Rod Stewart out of the subway in the 60s and says, you could be a rock star, And sure enough, he was. And I had the pleasure of working on a few series with him, and I think the funniest outtake was he was going, "Only the finest lubricants." What was that line?
Atomic Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, the finest of lubricants.
He just cracked up at that.
And he said, "That's so funny."
He was a very guy.
He was a very proper English gentleman, and I remember I used to drive him downtown after sessions every once in a while, and if you went 1 kilometer, over 50 kilometers, John would sit in the car and he'd go, "Oh dear." Oh no. No. Oh dear. What's wrong? Oh, it's too fast. Oh dear.
I never gave him a ride.
I used to give him a ride all the time. He's the greatest guy. He's like 6'7".
Any other questions? Someone back there?
Yeah. Oh, we
Oh,
got-
where? Oh, sorry.
I'll get you right next. He's got that big hand. Don't get tired.
I wonder who does the voice for hexadecimal
Megabyte.
megabytes.
I gotta share something with you.
Tony
Tony J.
Who's now passed away.
He was in LA, so we had to go down and basically do recording there.
And Garry filled in a lot of times for megabyte, right?
Always in hope.